All right, so ladies and gentlemen, here we are. This is the ascension of Babylon. We talk about the occult and we talk about spiritual self-development. If this is your thing and you don't know who I am and you're new here, absolutely subscribe and drop a like as well, because why wouldn't you do that? But anyways, we're going to be talking about Kabbalistic initiation in relation to the evolution of consciousness itself. So I'm going to pull out my Kabbalah Tree of Life sheet. This is the Kabbalistic Tree of Life, for those of you who don't know, but I'm sure most of you are probably familiar with this diagram or have, at least seen it a couple of times in your life. And what you're going to notice is this looks like a DNA strand. The reason why this looks like a DNA strand is because it actually represents this deeper DNA activation that we go through as we're experiencing these different energetic centers on the tree, and as we're experiencing these different planetary energies, zodiacal energies, and these archetypal energies, which are known as the archetypal pathways, and they connect these different spheres on the tree. And when you look at a lot of occult orders and, certain what some people would call secret societies and stuff like that, they actually understand this, and a lot of them, out of all the systems of development they can utilize, they utilize this right here. And there's a reason for that, and it's because of how powerful it actually is. So this is a representation of what we actually are. It's a representation of our overall energetic state to the higher self level, going all the way down to the lower self level, which is associated with the sphere of Malkuth. Now, most human beings are actually very polarized in awareness to the sphere of Malkuth. So most human beings only understand what's happening in the entertainment industry, what's going on at work, how they're going to survive, and how they're going to make a living, and this is because there's this fight or flight energy that most humans are stuck in, and they're really stuck in this survival stress, in this survival energy that's kind of just keeping them operating from the energy of Malkuth, which is actually in association with the root chakra. And this is why building safety within our system is so important, because if we're in survival stress, we're actually not going to be able to move up this tree and to raise our frequency as we're expanding our awareness and we're becoming more conscious. So when we're going through Kabbalistic initiation, what is actually taking place is, for instance, when we enter the sphere of Malkuth, we are going through the experiences necessary to become more balanced and to begin exiting survival stress by processing the energies and even the belief programs that are keeping us in that survival stress. And then from there, we, experience these different archetypal pathways, and we start to move up the tree. As we're going farther and farther up the tree, we're expanding our awareness more and more, and we're actually going through a remembrance of what we always were, but we built layers over that source energy consciousness state that we came into the world with and that we embodied as young children. And the way we build layers over this is societal programming that comes from our parents, and, unhealed trauma that exists within our system. So when we go through a traumatic experience, typically because we're not given the proper education of how to, process that experience, we fragment from the emotions that are associated with the experience, and therefore we fragment from the true self, and we create these self-concepts and these identities to survive the trauma and to just be able to exist in the world without that trauma coming flooding to the surface. But this comes with a disconnect, and what we do is we fragment from the source energy to where we're not operating from a space that is authentic to us. We're operating, basically on a subconscious program that is a defensive or protective adaptation that we need to kind of build into our own psyche just to be able to survive in the world. But if we're in this survival stress state, we're not going to be able to have that connection to the source energy. So essentially, we build layers upon layers over this energy, and we forget who we truly are. So as we're moving up the tree, we're going through these different experiences that become manifest in our life as a result of the different energetic centers that we're stimulating that are also in association with our chakra system, as a result of the planetary energies that we're working with, and as a result of the archetypal energies that we're essentially activating in our system that will actually show up in our physical reality as well. And the reason why I say activating is because these archetypal energies, so judgment, the world, the emperor, death, the devil, there's many more, but these archetypal energies are actually aspects of the mass collective unconscious, and they're living archetypes, which are, you can imagine, to be aspects and building blocks of our energetic structure that we've lost touch with, but we're getting back in touch with when we're going through the process of Kabbalistic initiation. And the way this typically works is we start at the bottom of, that's the top. We start at the bottom of the tree, and then we work our way up all the way till we start, experiencing the energy of Kether, which represents our crown chakra. We go through the experiences necessary to really activate our awareness of that, and then we ground it all back into the physical, our physical vessel, into the human character. And this is kind of like merging the heavens, which is associated with our higher self, with earth, which is associated with, our physical avatar. And as human beings, this is actually what we come here to do, to remember that we actually started as a higher self that created our own soul, and then we chose to, from that soul space, to incarnate into the physical body that we're currently inhabiting. And this is what I mean by the merging. We're going through this remembrance, and we're reconnecting with what we always were. But to do that, we have to work through the various different layers that we built over our original state, which is that source energy state. So when we're going through Kabbalistic initiation, there's going to be shifts in our consciousness that are taking place that are actually being fleshed out or triggered to come into manifestation through physical experiences that are going to manifest. So to give you an example, it's either this one or this one. I mess them up. Mix them up sometimes. But I think it's this one. And if it's not, that's okay. It's one of these two. But one of these is the archetype of judgment. And the archetype of judgment kind of represents this sense of spiritual awakening that is taking place within our being. And if you think of like a judgment, it can almost kind of seem harsh, because the archetype of judgment has this negative that comes with it, which is kind of like this pattern interruption that manifests within our reality to wake us up and to help us remember who and what we actually are. So as we're experiencing the archetype of judgment, there's this awakening that's taking place, and there's this shift that's taking place that's giving us the opportunity to start questioning our reality, questioning our job, questioning our relationships, questioning our sense of self-identity. And from that judgment archetypal energy that's influencing our life and influencing our psyche, we're then potentially moving up the tree. So then maybe we move into the sphere of Yesod. And to do that, we also have to experience the archetype of the world that connects Malkuth to Yesod. And the archetype of the world represents cycles. So when you think of like Mother Earth, we also think of the different cycles that manifest in nature: summer, winter, spring, and fall. So we have these cycles inside of us, And the same way autumn and winter represent the death cycle in nature, spring and summer are like the life cycle. They're what's growing after that death cycle takes place. So when we experience the archetype of judgment, and also on the other side of that is going to be the moon archetype, which represents our subconscious, represents us becoming more conscious of the subconscious, and also beginning to process certain suppressed emotions that are stored in our body and stored in our energy field so we can release them. Now we're, more so moving into that sphere of Yesod. We've went through the cycle of completion that we need to go through to begin kind of pulling away from that old version of us and then moving into the sphere of Yesod to then go through the manifestations that are going to present themselves within our overall being and within our physical reality as well. And these manifestations are going to set the stage for us to build the foundation that we need to start experiencing and opening up the other spheres on the tree. So Yesod is known as foundation because this is actually bringing us in touch with the foundation of our overall life experience, the foundation of the identities that we created, the foundation of how we view ourselves and how we view others and how we create our reality in general. Yesod represents the subconscious, and it's from this subconscious space that we're creating our reality based on our overall energetic resonance and based on our belief structures and our perceptions and our identities that are heavily rooted in subconscious, patterning and just subconscious patterns in general. So we're getting in touch with the foundation of how we create our reality. And there's certain experiences that are going to come from us, getting in touch with that foundation so we can have a deeper understanding of it. The entire process of Kabbalistic initiation is your higher self basically helping you manifest these different experiences that you need to go through to remember that you're actually that higher self having a human experience. So each sphere that you're opening up and experiencing, you are becoming more and more conscious of yourself and how you've been creating your reality all along. Everything in your reality, the good, the bad, and the awful, is your own creation that even when we're not conscious of it, on a subconscious level, we are creating the experience. So when you're going through Kabbalistic initiation, you're being shown that you're the creator. And you're also learning how to begin shifting into different timelines and into different versions of yourself that are going to be on a higher evolutionary path than the current version of yourself. So let's say now you move into Yesod, you have the experiences that you need to have, and then you move into the sphere of Hod. Hod is governed by Archangel Michael. And when you're working with Archangel Michael, you could do this through ritual practice and things of that nature. You're also integrating the energetic body in the energy field, or we can say downloading the energetic structure of Archangel Michael into the subconscious so you can then begin acting in a more conscious way. You're becoming more conscious of yourself as you're going through these higher density upgrades through the medium of Archangel Michael and, basically integrating that sense or state of awareness into your overall energetic structure. You're also going to be working with the chakra that it corresponds to and the planetary energy that governs it. So this is going to be Mercury. And Mercury is all about mentalism, it's all about the mind, and it's all about communication. So you may manifest experiences that are actually meant to teach you how to have a more authentic communication with other people. This could be things that manifest in the workplace. This could be things that manifest in your relationship. And it's also going to be like these internal shifts in consciousness that you experience. Now, connecting Hod to Nedzak is going to be the tower. So the tower is going to represent a deconstruction of the ego. And anytime there's an internal deconstruction, this is going to ripple effect into your reality. So potentially, if you've been creating a reality from an artificial space based on programming and what you were basically, sorry about that, I got the low battery notification. That happens sometimes. But anyways, what I was saying is, if you've been creating your reality from a space of programming and not from a space of authenticity, not from a space of what you really are, well, the tower archetype, when it becomes active in you, it's also going to ripple effect into your life, and it's going to create these very triggering circumstances that are going to help you process suppressed emotional resonance by bringing it to the surface. So this could be a falling out, this could be job loss, this could be a conflict with someone, an illness, whatever it needs to be, whatever is beneficial for you is what is going to manifest. And this is going to help you shift on an internal level to die to the aspects of you that were never you in the first place. And then you experience that tower archetype, you process that, and then you move up the tree even more. And as you're moving up the tree, now you're potentially moving into Tiphareth. Tiphareth represents the solar plexus chakra. Therefore, this is an association with how you view yourself, your sense of self-identity. So after you just kind of went through this ego death, in this ego dissolution with the tower archetype, now you're going to experience more of that dissolving level of refinement, because you're going to come across the archetypes of the devil, which is going to represent your vices, the masks you wear, and the underlying energetic patterns, suppressed emotional resonances, and trauma that are underneath the surface of that, and the shadow aspects of your consciousness, fueling you to create those identities, and therefore fueling, the artificial reality that you may have been creating for yourself. And death is going to create the circumstances necessary, the internal and external shifts, and, basically dissolvement, if that's a word. If it's not, you know what I mean. Let's just say dissolvement necessary for you to let go of those artificial aspects of your reality and let go of those old layers of yourself, so you can embody more of the source energy and integrate a higher state of awareness into your human character, into your physical body, into your nervous system, and into your sense of self-identity. So this is kind of a blending of the higher self energy with the lower density human egoic mind, if that makes sense. You're now becoming more of a container for the energy of your higher self, which you're going to experience more and more of as you're experiencing different archetypal energies on the tree, and you're opening up different spheres on the tree as well. So here is the sphere I'm talking about. Here's Tiphareth, and then now maybe you move into these spheres. You start experiencing some of Chesed, or some people pronounce it Hesed, I believe. This is governed by the energy of Jupiter, which represents expansion. So there's more expansion that's taking place. This sphere right here is governed by the energy of Mars. And then the archetype that connects both of these spheres is the archetype of strength. So there are going to be shifts in your internal state, and there's going to be physical experiences that manifest in your reality that are going to teach you what it actually means to be authentically strong. Not a sense of strength like is typically promoted in our society today. That's just a protective adaptation. That's not even real strength. It's just the fear of being vulnerable. But a real authentic sense of strength is what you're going to learn how to embody when you're experiencing the archetypal pathway that connects those two spheres of strength. Now, once you experience the first 7 spheres of the Kabbalistic tree, you're going to go through the crossing of the abyss. And what this is, it's like this space or this threshold that separates the lower aspects of the tree, so the first 7 energetic centers, with the upper aspects of the tree that are going to represent higher density energies, or what we can call higher frequency energies, that if you do make it into the upper aspects of the tree, now you're integrating those energies into your present moment state of awareness, and you're downloading them into your physical body. And you're setting the stage for a much deeper integration with your own higher self energy. But a major connection between you and your higher self is actually going to take place when you're experiencing the crossing of the abyss, because what you're doing is you're going deep into your shadow self, deep into your unconscious, to experience suppressed emotional resonance that is actually keeping you operating from the lower aspects of the tree. And this would be the lower, basically your lower chakras. And this is where most human beings are actually operating from, their lower chakras. They're not operating from the higher chakras, which are going to bring about a higher sense of awareness that's more in connection with the higher self. So this threshold that I'm talking about is known as the 11th hidden sphere of Da'at, or Doth. And Doth is an association with death energy. So when you're going into the abyss, there's a dying to certain belief systems, certain perceptions, certain identities, and aspects of your physical reality that you created from that false self or from that artificial identity space. So you begin moving into a new timeline, into a new reality, with a new sense of self-identity that you're going to emerge from the abyss from. But in order to have that new sense of self-identity, you're going to have to resurface and release from your energetic field and from your body suppressed emotional resonance that you've built I'll say it like that you've built up your whole entire life. Because what happens is most of us, we basically create identities and create belief systems and create certain physical realities subconsciously in avoidance to all of these trapped energies that are inside of us that want to be released. So when you're going into the abyss, there's a major dying of those protective adaptations that I'm referring to, and there's a major resurfacing that is going to lead to a major release of those very energies that are keeping you in a lower frequency state. And this is when you start actually operating from the higher chakras that are existing, in your body, and have a direct association with your overall, energy field or energetic structure in general. A lot of people, whether they're working with the tree of life or the tree of death, don't actually cross the abyss because they're not willing to go through that dissolving process. And when things start leaving their life that need to leave, for them to be a more authentic version of themselves and to have a deeper connection with the higher self, and for them to operate from their upper chakras, they will reattach to what the experience is essentially trying to take away from them. And this is what keeps a lot of people operating from the lower chakras, and therefore more so operating or cycling through the lower spheres on the Kabbalistic tree. But if you cross the abyss, this is when you move into the sphere of Binah, which is governed by Saturn. So all of that chaos that you just experienced during your abyss experience or the abyssal crossing, all of that chaos that you just experienced going into the 11th hidden sphere, going deeply into your unconscious, now you're going to bring a conscious order to it by working with the energy of Saturn. And Saturn is about structure, it's about order, and it's about discipline. So you just went through this major pattern interruption, and now you're going to bring in order to that. Now you just kind of entered this no self space to come out with a new sense of self-identity, which you're going to slowly wire into your nervous system, we can say, and you're going to begin creating your life from that space. Now, connecting Binah to Chokmah is going to be the archetypal energy of the Empress. And this further builds on the idea of you going through this major pattern interruption in the abyss, but you've emerged from that experience. You move into Bina, which represents understanding. Now you're understanding it all. And then you're experiencing the archetypal energy of the Empress, which, represents things that are coming into creation. It represents something that's being birthed. And this is now your new sense of self-identity that you're integrating into your system, that you're going to ultimately live your life as. This is a new sense of self-identity, a new way of expressing yourself to the world. And from there, you move into Hokmah, which is associated with wisdom. And then from Hokmah, you begin to actually move into Kether, which represents the source energy and represents the crown chakra. So now this is where a very significant connection with the higher self is going to take place, and experiences that need to manifest in your life to kind of flesh that out are now going to manifest to support you into deepening that connection that you made in a very profound way in the abyss, but now you're solidifying that connection and you're really wiring that energy into your system, into your body, and you're becoming a container for the higher density energy of your higher self. And then once you do that, you're going to ground the entirety of the experience back into Malkuth. Now you're living your life as an authentic version of you. And once you go through this initiatory process in this way, there's no turning back to the old version of yourself. It doesn't mean you don't make mistakes or anything like that. We're all human. We're not going to be perfect. Sometimes we attach to relationships that we shouldn't. Sometimes we get into unhealthy coping and things of that nature. Sometimes we might adopt a limiting belief to then see it for what it is and let go of it. But on an overall level, you are now embodying the source consciousness. And this is now wired and running through your physical body.